Hello and welcome to the Magical Learning Podcast. As you can see in the description, we have a guest today. And Cooper, I'd like to welcome you to the show and ask, how's your week been so far?
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be here, Danette, and getting to share a little bit about my life and what's going on. But this week has been pretty hectic for me, if I'm being completely honest. I just launched my brand new book, The 1% Good Club, a week ago today, and it has been a bit of a whirlwind. I was in Sydney the day at launch for a book launch, and then I flew to Melbourne for podcasts the next day, and then back to the Gold Coast where I live on Friday for a book launch. Long weekend at home, catching up with friends, and then I am now back down in Melbourne for some more work this week. So yeah, it's been pretty busy.
That is a full-on week. So, and I should have introduced your full name, Cooper Chapman, and I will hold that book up again for our YouTube viewers, the 1% Good Club. So we love to start by telling us just a little bit about your journey so far, including the Good Human Factory.
Absolutely. How long you got? I mean, go read the book if you want the full in-depth one, but I'll give you a bit of an elevator pitch of what you'll probably find in the book, because the book's a cross between my sort of personal journey as a professional athlete into building the Good Human Factory, and then 10 healthy habits that are scientifically proven to be great for your mental health. But a bit of the backstory. So I used to be a professional surfer. I grew up on Sydney's northern beaches and had a pretty awesome junior career in surfing. I was ranked in the top sort of 2 or 3 Australian surfers up until I was about 21 years old, which was a really cool way to go through high school and get to experience traveling the world from a very young age. And then I hit about 20, 21 years old and began to travel internationally for all of my competitions, and was ranked in the top 100 surfers in the world for pretty much a decade after finishing high school, which was, a beautiful way to see the world, a beautiful way to meet some great people, and a great way to learn some really valuable lessons. Being a top level athlete, you generally have access to some resources that maybe the general population doesn't have. So I worked very closely with sports psychologists and neuroscientists along my journey to understand how I can get an edge with my sort of mental health. But I had some family history of mental illness. I lost an uncle to suicide when I was young, and my little sister lost a friend to mental illness in her last year of high school back in 2018. And that was a real crossroad for me, where at the time I was traveling the world surfing professionally, living a pretty great existence. But then, there was kids in my local area that were struggling so much with their mental health that, they were taking their life. So I asked myself 2 questions the night when I saw my sister had lost that friend. And that was like, why is this happening? But is there anything I can do about it? And the answer to the second one was yes. I went and spoke to an old school teacher friend of mine and said, mate, did you hear about the suicide of the young people around the corner? And he said, so tragic, like, it's so, so sad this is happening. And I just said to him, like, do you reckon maybe I could come and share some of the lessons I learned through my surfing career, and I'm still learning through my surfing career, that I didn't get taught at school, and, maybe it'll help 1 or 2 of the students. And he was like, oh, you're such a good human for wanting to come and do that. You should call it like the Good Human Factory. They come to your workshop, they leave the factory a little bit better. So that's where the name came from. I don't call myself the Good Human. It was actually my school teacher friend who came up with that name, and it stuck. And that was 7 years ago now. I've retired from professional surfing. I'm a full-time well-being and mental health educator and advocate. I've educated over 60,000 students at schools in every state in the country. I've worked with big corporate companies like Apple, Red Bull, Telstra, McDonald's, Amazon, Westpac, Coles. I was up in the FIFO mining area doing some stuff with the miners recently. So what I've realized is, everybody has mental health, and the way that I talk about it isn't through the mental illness lens, it's through the mental health lens. And the feedback I have from my workshops, from my podcast, from the sort of community and the organization I've created is just so profound and so positive. And now the latest thing to add to my wheelhouse is my book, and it's really exciting to see where the book goes as well. So that's a bit of my story through surfing, building a business, and impacting a lot of people now, and now also having the book. It's been quite the journey the last 5 or 6 years.
So tell us now a little bit more around, let me hold it up again, why you wrote the 1% Good Club, and also really why it's important for people to pick up this book and have a good read.
So I'll give you the backstory of what the 1% Good Club is before I explain what the book is about. So I was sitting down doing a meditation about 4 years ago now, and I, just like all of us, couldn't slow my mind down. And I had this thought came out of nowhere that said, surely we can give 1% of our day to our mental health. You know, mental health is the biggest killer of people aged 14 to 45. It's a pretty important thing that we should all be able to, I believe, give 1% to our mental health. So as I was in this meditation, I stopped midway through it and I got my calculator out and worked out what 1% of 24 hours is. So there's 1,440 minutes a day. 14.4 is 1%. 14.4 in minutes is 14 minutes and 24 seconds. So I was like, what about 14 minutes, less than 1% of your day for your mental health? And hopefully anyone listening can have the buy-in of like, yeah, you know what, I can probably give 1% to my mental health. You know, I'm either affected by mental illness, I have a family member who has been, I have a friend who has been, like we all have had some sort of impact when it comes to mental health or mental health issues. So we should all give 1% of our day. And even if you don't struggle with your mental health, you giving 1% might inspire your brother who struggles with theirs to do 1% or your partner to give 1%. So I think we should all give 1%. So that was an idea I had 4.5 years ago. And I was like, well, how do I keep people accountable with this? So I started an Instagram community, an Instagram group chat called the 1% Good Club, where we do 1% of our day, something good for our mental health. And we're 95% more likely to maintain a healthy habit if you have a community around you. So I was like, every morning I'll send a 10-minute link to a meditation. So there's 10 minutes of meditation in the morning. Every night, everyone write 3 things they're grateful for in this Instagram group chat. And then we've done 4 minutes of gratitude. That's 1% of your day for your mental health. 10 minutes mindfulness, 4 minutes gratitude, like such a positive thing. And that was 1,660 days ago now. And I haven't missed a day, or I've missed days because I've been off grid, but in a whole, I've kind of continued for 1,600 days straight. The community grew from 30 people on day one to over 3,000 people have joined over the past 4 years. And there's over 1 million gratitudes sent in, which is just unbelievable to me, because I understand the neuroscience that when we practice gratitude, we reflect on our positives in our life. It releases chemicals and hormones in our body that make us feel good. So that's probably the thing I'm most proud of with the work I've done, is this free community. Anyone listening right now can go join on Instagram, send at The Good Human Factory a DM saying, I want to join the club. You join this free community. You're part of this incredible group of people who are dedicating 1% of their day. So that was the initial concept, and I'd been doing that for years. I was then approached by Wiley Publishing, one of the greatest publishers in the world and one of the biggest in Australia. And they said, do you have an idea for a book? And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. I've got sort of my journey through my keynote speaking, the lessons I teach about living by values and the science behind them. I also have kind of my entrepreneurial journey, my surfing journey. But then I've got all these really valuable lessons I've learned from these experts on my podcast that I've tried to integrate into my life and now understand the science of them, and they can help regulate our nervous system. So I want to do like a 3-part book. And I initially said I want to call it the Good Human Guidebook. And they're like, we love the idea, we love the flow of the book, but we're not really sold on the Good Human Guidebook. And then I just kind of threw in that I've also got this community called the 1% Good Club, which is this 14 minutes a day for your mental health community that I've built. There's been crazy impact. And they're like, we love that for the name of the book. We think that is so strong. To then show people that, yeah, we should all be part of this 1% Good Club. Doesn't matter who you are. We should all be a member of the community of people giving 1% of their day to their mental health, whether you join the online community or not. But reading the book is sort of part 2 of my, I call it the experiment of the theory of giving 1% of our day to our mental health. So the book is called the 1% Good Club as well, which gives this baseline theory that we should do 14 minutes for our mental health, but then it stacks a bunch of other great habits that have science back to them that can help regulate our nervous system, manage our mental health better. So that's kind of a bit of a flow of where the concept of the 1% came from, the proven sort of community that's really shown that it actually works. And then part 2 is the book, which gives people that extra journey into it. So yeah, that's a bit of a run through of the book and where it came from and why it's in the world. And yeah, hopefully after you read it, you feel, you know, inspired to give 1% of your day to your mental health, but also equipped with the tools and the strategies to actually do that and the framework.
I love that, Cooper. And I would say I've got a finance background. You're investing in yourself. So it's actually a great idea. So my next question is, you know, a lot of people struggle with their emotions and stuff like that. And one of the things your book talks about is, you know, grounding and balancing your emotions. So I'd love if you wouldn't mind sharing a tip or 2 for our listeners and viewers around that concept.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about it in the form of sort of the noise that we all get stuck in our head. I mean, it's kind of argued in neuroscience, but they say we have around 6,000 thoughts running through our head each waking day. There's studies that show around 75% of them are usually negative and 95% of them are usually repetitive. So I say to people this, like if we have 75% negative thoughts, that's about 4,500 negative thoughts running through your head every day. You multiply that by a year, that's over 1.6 million negative thoughts running through everybody's head on average a year. My goal is like, how do we switch that dial from 75 down to 50 or 40%? We're going to have hundreds of thousands, millions less negative thoughts through our life. And there are some things that we can do to improve this relationship with what's going on up here. And that thing is called mindfulness and meditation. And as much as so many people go, I can't meditate, I sit and my thoughts just run crazy, that's kind of a good sign that you really need to sit with your thoughts. And this is something that I heard recently that really made it stand out why this is important to me. So I heard on this song that Alan Watts had this beautiful little saying in it, and he said, we need to stop talking if we want to listen to somebody. But if we want to listen to the world around us or our body, we need to stop thinking. And stopping thinking is a skill. We need to get out of our mind to notice the beautiful colors of the tree that we can see, to feel the sand under our feet, to, get in touch with what's actually going on. So many of us, as soon as we get a minute, we go on our phone, we go into distraction mode. We try and avoid, getting out of our head. So a great exercise that I really teach people in through my workshops and that I've been taught by so many different psychologists, by so many different experts on my podcast, is just this really simple mindfulness skill. I call meditation the daily practice. Go do 10 minutes a day if you can to sit still. But this is something that all of us should do multiple times throughout our day. And that's a simple practice where we connect with our senses and try and get out of our head. And I say to people, spend 30 seconds or even 10 seconds focusing on what you can see. Look at the colors around you, the shapes, the colors, the shadows, the light, the reflections. Just try to take notice of what you can see, not the thoughts in your head, but what you can see because it's in the present moment. The second one is close your eyes for 5-10 seconds and focus on what you can hear. Whether you can hear the wind outside, you can hear the hum of the aircon of the room you're in, whether you can hear, the blood flowing through your body. Once again, this is connecting with something in the present moment, getting out of the thoughts and coming back to what's happening right now. And then the third one, and this is the most powerful one, is connecting with how you're feeling. And I say to people, put your hand on your heart and just stop for 10 seconds and try and notice the feeling of the air coming in and out of your body. Notice the feeling of your heartbeat in your hand, your chest, or anywhere else in your body. And you'll notice when you do this little exercise, it can be 10 seconds of each. It's just a way to psychologically get out of all this, thoughts and things that are running wild in our head and connect back with what's happening around us in that present moment. And for me, it really calms me down. There's a lot of data that shows practicing this allows you to calm down, get out of your head and back to your body. So that's a great exercise for me that helps me ground and balance, my thoughts and emotions. And another good one, if you have the opportunity to, trying to spend, it can be a minute each day, but spend some moment each day where your bare skin touches the earth, whether it's the grass, whether it's touching a tree when you walk past it. There's so much great science that shows grounding our body, connecting with nature, connecting with the earth has profound effects. Go look up online the science of grounding, and if you haven't heard about it before, you'll be blown away. So they're two things that I encourage people to do to, connect back with nature, connect back with how you're feeling in yourself. Getting in nature, that little mindfulness practice, great little exercises.
Love that mindfulness practice. That was beautiful. I was doing it as you were sharing it. So my next one is, what's your favorite habit for mental health? And also, why is it your favorite habit?
So my favorite habit for mental health has to be gratitude. I feel like it's the lowest hanging fruit ever. And gratitude is just about like focusing your thoughts and energy on the good things going on in your life and the positives. And it's not to say that you don't have negatives and challenges going on. Every single person listening does. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people get stuck with gratitude. They go, yeah, but your life's great. You've got all this good stuff going on. Like I've got all this crap stuff going on. It's like, I've got a lot of challenges going on in my life too, but I choose to focus my thoughts and energy. Like I said, 6,000 of them a day. We have a quota. So many of us are wasting all of them on negative things. Like spend the time and the quota of, thoughts through your head, trying to shift it towards more positive, and it releases chemicals in our brain and body that make us feel good. And there's so many great neuroscience studies that show this. People who practice gratitude regularly are happier people. And I mean, I got told every day as a kid, focus on appreciation, not expectation. And I never understood it when I was a dad. When I was a kid, I thought my dad was a bit of a scab and didn't want to buy me anything. But now I know he's teaching me like one of the most valuable lessons you can learn, right? Like focus your thoughts and energy on the positives. And my 2 tips for anyone listening and people going, oh, how do I do it? I'll give you 3. 1, if you really need the accountability, go join the 1% Good Club on Instagram. It's a great way to get the community of people doing it with you. Number 2, if you're lucky enough to share dinner with a partner, your kids, a family member, friends, just asking them around the dinner table, what was the most positive, or like, what's something good that went on in your day? And you can generally, see people go through the moment of reflecting on, oh, this happened, this happened. Hey, you're literally creating positive chemicals running through people in your life, body. How good's that? Or if you want that daily practice, because it is a practice, if you want to see these benefits, you have to do something. When you brush your teeth at night, use the kind of thing that James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits. Stack a habit. We all brush our teeth hopefully every night. Use that as a reminder to just think, what are a few things I enjoyed about my day? So cost nothing gratitude. It's just about moving your thoughts to a different, direction. And when we do that, it releases chemicals that make us feel good. So trying to build it into a daily practice, I think gratitude is the lowest hanging fruit.
Love that, and I do love gratitude, so beautiful answer. Thank you, Cooper. So my next question is around, um, yeah, would you share more about, because in your book you talk about building a life of intentional habits. So really curious about, how do people go about doing that?
It's a very tricky thing, forming healthy habits, and it's something that I continually struggle with. So I definitely did not write this book from the lens of an expert. I wrote the book from a lens of someone who's just trying their best to, live a life towards their full potential. And I had a couple years ago, me and my partner were sitting down, like thinking about all these healthy habits that we'd learnt about that we know are good for us, but we're finding it hard to practice daily. And we wrote down 10 of them, and the 10 of them, actually, we actually wrote down 14, but in the book, it kind of made more sense and it was a bit more practical to break it down into 10. So I'm going to read out the 10 habits that are in the book. And we actually built a whiteboard that had 7 days by 10 habits. And we keep ourselves accountable by ticking and crossing them off. And we write on the top of the board, it's about progress, not perfection. We are far from perfect. We don't tick all these things off every day, but we try our best. So the 10 that we have on ours are breath work, meditation, exercise and movement, some time in nature, time connecting or communication with each other as a couple, limiting our screen time and spending time learning, practicing gratitude, eating at home and cooking healthy food, stretching and recovery, sleep and self-care and the environment we live in. So each of those, it sounds like, wow, that's a really overwhelming day to get through. But we wake up and we do a 5-minute breath work, 5-minute meditation, 10 minutes done, 2 ticks. We try and get outside, whether it's going for a walk, going for a surf, getting in nature, doing some sort of exercise, movement, and nature, tick. We sit around the dinner table and, have a deep conversation about what we're grateful for. There's home cooking, gratitude and communication connection, tick, tick, tick. We then, before bed, try and make sure we have boundaries around our phone. We have no phone before 7 p.m., after 7 a.m. Sorry, before 7 a.m., after 7 p.m. We try and do a little bit of stretching before we get in bed. My partner has all beautiful self-care things, so she does a bit of creams on my face and we get a good night's sleep. And that's us getting a perfect day. And let me tell you, we don't get perfect days very often. We might get a few a week, but we're far from perfect. We have this accountability board to tick and cross them off, just to have something in front of us to try and, stick to the things that we know are good for us. And we say knowledge is knowing about good things for you. Wisdom's actually doing it. So that's how I stay, on track. I'm far from perfect. I get a lot of this stuff wrong most days, but I try and come back to it.
Great answer, and thank you for sharing all of that. Just sounds like bliss that day for me. So my next question is, what's one bit of advice that you wish someone had given you when you were younger, and starting out on your journey, and why?
It's a good question. I think something that it wasn't really a bit of advice, but maybe it was from someone. And it's just something that I kind of learnt quite early when starting my business, let's call it, because I spent, 15 to 20 years climbing this mountain to try and become the best surfer in the world. And I got pretty close to the top 100, top 50 in the world, one of my best years. Um, and then when I was near the top, I kind of realized, I started to read a lot of self-development books about service, and that's where you really start to get fulfillment in life. And you look over and there's another mountain that goes into the clouds that never ends, and that's the mountain of service, the journey. And I, built a bit of a bridge to go across. I feel very lucky that I had the profile, the privilege of the life I lived to maybe get a little bit ahead and get a bit of a jump start, a little bit of momentum to start, get my foot in some doors. But the bit of advice that, I don't know if someone told me this or I kind of adapted it from other bits of advice, and maybe I wish I had this right at the start when I started, but I picked it up pretty quickly, is look at what I'm doing now in building the Good Human Factory as this 15-year journey. Like the first 4 to 5 years, you're an apprentice. You're learning how to do a business. You've got no idea how to build a Shopify. You've got no idea how to outreach on LinkedIn. You've got no idea how to schedule your calendar. Like all of these things, I never put pressure on myself or felt bad if I wasn't that good at them. I was under this mindset of you're an apprentice for the next 4 to 5 years. No different if you were going to get in your building your apprenticeship or you're going to be an electrician. It's going to take you years to learn the ropes. And now I'm pretty much in my 5th year now. I feel like I'm like a first year qualified, business owner. I've only just learnt the things that are working, and I'm adapting and adjusting where I can. So, yeah, that's a bit of advice that I wish more people knew when they were starting out a venture of, an entrepreneur venture, a new business, that like, hey, it's not going to work overnight, but if you stick at it and you learn from your mistakes, you learn from your lessons, you can continually grow. So that's probably a lesson that, yeah, is worth sharing, but a bit of advice that
Great
I'd give to
advice.
myself at the start.
Yeah, nice. I love that, Cooper. So my next question, because we have a number of listeners and viewers that we reckon are interested in our author's writing process. So can you share a little bit about how you went about writing this book?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, I've spoken to a bunch of different people who are authors or who want to be authors, and I was quite fortunate in the route that I got to become an author. I'd been offered a book deal like 12 months before the one, or maybe longer before the one I got with Wiley, and it was very different. It was a publishing company like, hey, here's our packages. You pay us like $30,000 and we create your book for you. And I was like, I'd heard from other people that like I get like an advance for writing the book, and it's like different way. And that's obviously how it goes if you have somewhat of a profile, or and not that I do, but I think what I'd built with my business, Wiley'd obviously followed. So I said no to the initial people. And then I got an email in August last year, so only 13 months ago, from lovely lady Jordan from Wiley Publishing. And she said, hey, Cooper, I've been following your work for quite some time. We do these business, we're predominantly a business book company. We've done The Barefoot Investor, the most sold book in Australia. But we're looking to expand into self-development. And we've been seeing the work you've been doing, running workshops with corporates, with high school students, your podcast. We see the content you put out about positive well-being with your spin on it. Do you have any ideas about a book? And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. I think I really already mentioned that story earlier of I got sent this list of like, answer all these questions for us. Like, what would be your marketing plan? I was like, I do these keynotes with big corporates. I have a podcast. I have, a lot of friends with big podcasts. Here's the idea for the book, which I spoke about at the start. What do you think? And they're like, yep, we love the idea. Let's call it this name. We love that you've got a great marketing plan. I'm pretty sure a lot of publishers really like working with keynote speakers because, we're in front of audiences quite often that we can sell the books to. And yeah, they were like, great, we'll give you a book deal. They said, here's 2 ghostwriters that we recommend if you want to go the ghostwriter route. I got 2 quotes. One was $40,000, one was $100,000. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write my own book. And Wiley were like, great, because if you get a ghostwriter and it goes really well and you want to write your second book, you still haven't written a book. So I was like, sweet, I'll give it a crack myself. And yeah, I had 6 months to write it. And it was an interesting journey. I had many times on aeroplanes where I just punched out chapters, but I was very lucky because, as I mentioned at the start, I really already had part 1, 2, and 3 mapped out. I had almost every chapter name to a certain extent mapped out. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to tie that full potential board at the start. That wasn't even on my radar. It was just going to be like, lessons I've learned from my podcast, but then it just fitted in really nicely to be like, here's my full potential thing. And that's how the last 10 chapters came about. But yeah, I had 6 months until end of March to write it from when I got the book deal in like September. And I think I wrote the second half of the book in like the last 2 weeks, kind of like a high school assignment, and crammed it. And, I didn't go to uni. I never had to do an assignment or anything where I had to put references and stuff in. So I had a great editor who helped me with like making sure that my references actually validated what I put them in as and stuff. And yeah, we got there in the end. And then March, April, for anyone who hasn't written a book before or who's looking at writing a book, was a really cool process, doing my editing process where, there was some stories or some people I mentioned that my publisher's like, hey, they're going through some stuff in legal battles overseas. You've got to pull them out of the book. So, having, people out there to help me really mold the book into something that readers are really going to enjoy and go on a journey with. Then that gets finished, and then you have your next editor who goes through it again. And I got my PDF versions. It's called the typeset, where how it looks, but in a PDF form. And I had to read that and found, 100 or 200 mistakes of little things that had to be tweaked again. And then I got the, first hard copies like 6 weeks before it actually came out. Got sent out to some amazing people who would, interview me and have me on their podcast, just like you. And then I had to do the audiobook, which was also a really interesting journey for anyone who's a published author who has done their own audiobook. It's pretty bloody hard. You have to get like 55,000 words correct without sort of making a mistake. So that was a bit of a journey. I think it took me about 11 and a half hours to record a book that on Spotify it says it's 4 hours and 59 minutes. So it's less than 5 hours. Nice, easy listen and read. Found a few extra mistakes in it when I did the live read of the published copy. So there's like 2 or 3 mistakes. So you can do a bit of a Where's Wally and see if you can find the few mistakes. Actually, the most of the mistakes are actually spelling mistakes for friends' names, which is very bad of me. But also, you probably won't notice if you're reading it. But yeah, that was the journey of writing it. It came out on the 1st of October. It's been a wild journey to see it on, airport bookshelves. I've been very fortunate that Wiley have been an incredible team to work with. They've really pushed my book, I think, as one of their bigger books for the year, which is great. You go through the airports, it's like got double shelves on like the really good eye line height, which I've spoken to other friends who are recently published and they're like, how did you get into airports? Like, that's so hard. So yeah, it's really special to be working with such a great publisher who's given me the opportunity for the book to, reach as many people as possible, because I think it does have the potential to profoundly impact so many people's lives. So if you are listening and you're like, oh, do I get it? Do I not? Grab a copy, have a read. It'll take you on a bit of a journey. It'll teach you some skills for your mental health, whether you're somebody who knows a lot about this stuff, it might give you a new framework or a new perspective. Or if you're somebody who's like, I wouldn't mind, jumping into this self-development. I feel like it's a great bridge between somebody who's like, this stuff's woo-woo and kind of practicality behind it. So yeah, I don't know how much you've read, if you can give some honest feedback about some of the bits that you've read, but that's how I hope it came across. And the initial feedback has really been that it's a great mix between storytelling, science, other people's stories from experts in my podcast, but then also practical frameworks that you can add into your life starting today.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about I'm a real practical person. So for me, yeah, I loved your stories when you sort of were starting out. Yeah, the fact that at 10 you got a professional sponsorship in surfing. When I read that, I was like, that's pretty extraordinary. But then the practical tips, your 10 habits and stuff like, loved that. So no, awesome, awesome book. Once again, I'll hold it up for those online. The
Yeah,
1%
you won't miss it. If you see it at a bookstore, look for
nice and
a,
bright.
a black cover with yellow writing that says the 1% Good Club real big. And I'll give you guys a little inside scoop, a little sneaky message on the cover. There's 100 dots on the cover and one of them's yellow to signify that's how small a time of your day that I'm encouraging to give your mental health. Spend 99% of the time doing everything else you want, but do 1% for your mental health and you'll see some profound impacts.
Oh, I love that, Cooper. So now all of our viewers and listeners need to get a copy of the book and spot that one dot. Hey?
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
so, Cooper, we're nearly at the end of this, but is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers that we haven't covered so far?
Ooh, anything else? Not necessarily. I think you did pretty well with going through a bit of my journey. You got the little bit of backstory with the surfing. We had, a bit of a talk about my workshops. I guess the other thing that I like to always share on podcasts is, the wellbeing workshops that I deliver for corporate groups, for high schools, and for events and for conferences and also sporting clubs. And yeah, it's really nice to see the impact that that's had. I mean, I've spoken to over 50,000 students, which has been really cool. And after I started delivering these workshops to students, all the teachers were like, oh my God, I really needed that. And then once again, very lucky that I had a few connects and a few foots in the door at a few big companies and got to, do workshops for Red Bull and Amazon. And now I've spoken to over 70 different organizations and I deliver workshops from 30-minute lunch and learns to 1 hour sort of intensive things to 90-minute sessions to up to half-day workshops where I've taken through, Royal Adelaide Hospital nurses through half-day workshops and just try and give people a look at mental health through a lens that isn't heavy. It's not mental illness. It's not like, wow, I'm fearful. Here's how you spot the signs. Here's how you call the numbers. It's no, what am I doing for myself? And here's the practical ways that you can improve your mental health today. And the feedback that I've had is just phenomenal. Over 1,000 people have filled out my feedback form, and I think it's 98.7 say they learned something new about mental health in my workshops. 98.4 say they'll use the skills that they learnt moving forward, and 98.9 said they will recommend the workshop to a friend. So pretty much 100% feedback with everything that I've done when it comes to the workshops. Very refined now, very, short, sharp, engaging, and impactful. So if you're out there and you work for a business, or you're the HR at a business, or you own a business, and you're like, you know what, this sounds like something that can have a positive impact on our workplace, yeah, just check out the website, thegoodhumanfactory.com. You can check the workshop tabs out. And yeah, really, really excited now that the book's out to be able to piggyback off that and give out a lot of books during my workshops to really give people the skills and, the habits that can profoundly impact their life. Because, with my family history of mental illness, losing an uncle, watching my sister, watching other people in my family struggle, this stuff has, the power to really help people. And I'm really proud to be able to share it with so many people now.
So, Cooper, we will put that link in the podcast description so people can reach out to you, because I know we'll have some listeners and viewers that do. So, Cooper Chapman, can I say congratulations on the 1% Good Club? Super important book to read, and I love that 1% investment of your time every day. And to all of our listeners and viewers, thank you so much for sharing all of our podcasts. And for everyone, we hope you have a magical week.